Welcome to the show, Gearheads. Max Verstappen wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in fantastic fashion. He had an incredible weekend. This is Jon Massengale, joined by Bob Varsha. Chris Medland will be joining us shortly, as will Jonathan Green. Bob Varsha, I will come to you. Max Verstappen had the pole. He had the fastest lap. He had the win, of course, and he also led all laps. So that is a fantastic weekend for Mr. Verstappen.
Yeah, the old Grand Chelem. It just doesn't get any better than that. And I think we learned something in this race. As we speculated in our pre-race show, the Red Bull is a much improved car from what the two drivers had at the beginning of the season. Max Verstappen, of course, we always expect to excel, and he rarely lets us down. But Yuki Tsunoda was a factor in this race, spending most of his time leading a long DRS train. Excuse me. So, I think the Red Bull team is on the front foot, if you will, going into Singapore in 2 weeks, and then, of course, coming to the United States for a couple of rounds. It's, there's still plenty to be decided in this season. And I think given what happened today to Ferrari, to certainly the most shocking note in the race was Oscar Piastri, the championship leader, crashing out on lap one. And I just can't wait to hear what his comments are on that. I think he was a little over enthusiastic. We found out that they changed his chassis from yesterday to today. So he started the race in a car he had no time in previously at all. And all these cars are put together identically. They do not perform identically, and you have to know how they're running. And Oscar may not have known that when he lunged into an attempted outside pass on lap one and wound up straight on into the barriers. I think he's embarrassed about that performance, and he should be, because I thought for a guy with a 31-point lead in the Drivers' Championship, he did not need to do anything but take his time. And other than that, it was a decent race if you're into strategy, because there wasn't a whole lot of passing. I kind of have a measure of races. I call it the sleep meter. If I fall asleep during the race, and granted this was an early morning race, I judge it accordingly by laps. And I think this was a 4-lap race on the sleep meter. I dozed off for 4 laps. Probably could have done it for a lot more. I mean, it was not an extremely challenging race, let's say. But we saw some decent passing to get into position. Certainly George Russell moving up into the top positions. And, of course, a great drive by Carlos Sainz. And another incredible show by Max Verstappen, although we didn't see a whole lot of it, which is typical of televised races. You disappear, and you're going to be away from the TV screens as well.
Well, there's lots to come away from this race. Like you said, first of all, the championship battle with Piastri, and there was such an opportunity for Lando Norris, but he only ended up with 4 points in this race, and so the gap just barely dropped now. So it's down to what, 27? Yeah, 27 points now. So, but Verstappen, of course, added 25 to his. So is Max Verstappen back in this championship battle? The point standings right now is Piastri 324, Norris 297, and Verstappen 255. So something I wrote down in my notes, kind of in jest, was that clearly the Red Bull is the fastest car in the field now, and I was a bit joking, but I tell you what, after these two back-to-back wins for Max, they've clearly made some gains on the car. Now, these particular tracks are probably well suited to this Red Bull, but you can't count Max out no matter what. And obviously, Red Bull pouring every resource they can into the car right now. I mean, it feels like it. So you don't know. This championship is, not mathematically over for sure.
No, and congratulations to Laurent Mekies, who took over the reins at Red Bull when they were at their most calamitous, with all kinds of finger pointing and what have you. A lot of misdirection, but they've been supremely successful since McKees joined the team. So whatever he did, I'm sure other teams would like to do as well. And we should note that the next race in Singapore in 2 weeks is a track pretty similar to what we saw today. So I think we can expect more of the same from the Red Bull, and hopefully not more of the same from Oscar Piastri, who stalled at the start and then stuffed it in the fence.
I think that's why he stuffed it. I think that's what happened. I think you said it,
Yeah.
he was anxious. He stalled. We saw the car, and he dropped all the way to the back of the field, and then immediately panicked and tried to make up a bunch of ground too fast and put it in the wall.
Right.
So I'll have to say this, though. 2025 season just keeps on giving us right at the beginning of that lap, that race, that when he crashed, I was like, okay, championship leader crashes on lap 1 and turn 6. So this season has been very exciting, and I think we've still got plenty more to go. McLaren did not wrap up the Constructors' Championship as they could have today, because Lando finished behind one of the behind one of the Ferraris, behind Leclerc. So that's still to come. But so many wonderful stories, including Carlos Sainz and Liam Lawson. How about those two guys? Fantastic.
Yeah. And, it's possible, since Racing Bulls is the sister team to Red Bull Racing, if the source of Red Bull's increase in speed comes from what Honda's been doing with the engines, then we can expect Racing Bulls are going to see that same kind of improved performance, let's say. And that'll be something to watch for in the 7 races yet to come. You were right when you said this season is not over, and there's plenty of excitement in store.
Yeah, so let me just run down the top 10, and then we'll go down the bottom 10 later. But Verstappen wins, followed by George Russell, who wasn't feeling well all weekend. His voice sounded horrible, respiratory something going on. Carlos Sainz on the podium, and you heard him in the post-race interview saying it was maybe his favorite podium of all time, and followed by Kimi. And Kimi Antonelli with a nice finish for him. He needed one, and he's been struggling a bit of late, so finishing 4th. And then, like I mentioned, really exciting for Liam Lawson, his best finish ever. He had a P6 earlier this year, but now 5th, and right behind him, his sister teammate, Yuki Tsunoda. And then Lando Norris in 7th, Lewis Hamilton 8th, and Charles Leclerc in 9th, and Isaac Hadjar in 10th. I was thinking that Norris finished behind one of the Ferraris, but he did not. It was Norris 7th, Hamilton 8th, Leclerc 9th, and then Isaac Hadjar in 10th. But I just want to go back to that Lawson-Tsunoda battle, because that was actually by far the most interesting battle of the latter part of the race, because Liam Lawson was leading up that train of cars, but he did not have DRS and was holding off Tsunoda, who was holding off Norris. And I thought that was pretty impressive of Liam Lawson.
Yeah, and Lawson held off the 2 Ferraris, which is a pretty bold move under any circumstances. But I sensed, didn't someone say his battery? Norris was not the only one that had battery issues. I think Lawson might have as well, or he would have put in a lap like the one we saw in qualifying.
Well, and remember, back on lap 37 or 8 or something around there, Lando Norris, he could have finished higher in this race, but he had a 4.1 second pit stop because they had struggled to get the right front on, and he lost, I think, 2 positions. Was that right, Bob?
That or thereabouts. As soon as he came onto the track, he was under attack, and he wasn't quite up to it. I was afraid he was going to do the same thing his teammate did, and get overly ambitious in some of these 90-degree corners. I mean, they're just diabolical, particularly at higher speeds. But he managed to work his way into that DRS train, and had to fight for his life from there.
Hey, I hear the busiest man in Baku, his microphone lighting up. Chris Medland has joined us. Mr. Medland, are you surviving this weekend so far? F1 TV, PA commentary, radio with us?
Somehow I'm still standing, yeah. Loving it, though, I must admit. Trying to pick who I'm going to attack now, though, post-race, is tricky with all the storylines we still have. As much as that wasn't a classic, was it, in terms of entertainment during that race itself? The grid is what really set it. So just having a look around who I can find here in the pit lane after those podium celebrations. James Vowles has already hot-footed it into the paddock, I can see, so we'll try and get him a bit later. Picked a good one to talk to, didn't we, pre-race? And, yeah, that podium. I must say, I'm already feeling very smug. I predicted a Carlos Sainz podium before the start of this season, so he's made me look very smart.
Well, I think Casey reminded me right before we went on the air that I actually got it right. I got the podium right this time. I picked Verstappen, Russell Sainz.
Did you really?
Yeah. Like a broken clock, I occasionally get it right. So Chris, we didn't get the rain. The wind didn't seem to affect it at all. And I'm going to give you all the credit because yesterday in our post-qualifying show, you predicted that. You said the people are not going to be pushing for that last millisecond, and the wind may not affect them. And they maybe they learned some lessons yesterday and avoided those wind-caused accidents.
Well, I think it helped that everybody was wise to the situation now. It took all of those crashes yesterday for everybody to realize how strongly they were affected by those big gusts of wind. So everybody was more on the lookout for them. Or maybe it just wasn't as bad.
Oh, we're losing you, Chris.
Chris, well, let's stick Jonathan in there. He's how much of the race were you able to watch, Jonathan?
Yeah. Hey, Johnny Green, you're on mute, buddy, but he's
muted.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, in and out, but yeah. I guess I was surprised that I didn't miss much when I missed anything. If you've known on me.
That is true.
I was really
the only
impressed,
guy I know.
Really impressed with Lawson not having the DRS and able to hold those guys off. That's no mean feat.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, in fact, I wrote down driver of the day, question mark. So, I mean, I think that's always that's a fan-based thing, obviously. So, but I think you have to at least consider him in that. Carlos Sainz for sure is well deserving of that because he had, he had started in a good position, right? So able to hold on to that though. But in considering that he definitely doesn't have the fastest car in that group, he did a good job with that as well.
I mean,
did they show I didn't see the percentages for driver of the day. Was Carlos a landslide winner or was it close?
I didn't see that. I didn't see.
Oh.
You have to say though, that just on merit, Williams, I mean, if you look back in 5 years and just look at the stats for that, forget Albon because he had that crash, early on in the weekend. But or in qualifying. But when you look at Carlos Sainz's weekend, on merit for Williams, that is a huge stride for that team. Was nothing lucky about it. It was pure execution.
Yeah, and think about the constructors, the team standings now, because Williams now has crossed the 100-point threshold. Williams with 101 and Racing Bulls back at 72. So that was a nice big gap. I mean, it's way too early to start saying that they've secured fifth place. But it's a nice gap because it's only 10 points back to Aston Martin and then 7 points back to Sauber and 11 back to Haas. And so that 9th through 5th is still pretty tight. But Williams has put some distance on those teams today with that podium for Carlos Sainz. Really exciting. Hey, here's a stat for you guys. Max Verstappen has now led more laps than Lando Norris this season.
That's very telling.
Yeah, it is.
It is amazing to think, with all the success Max has had, despite the handicap of the car, he's got more poles than any other driver. And knowing his ability to sustain the effort and race strategically and so on, that he's as far out in the Drivers' Championship as it is.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey,
he's
we got
a
to
master at turning poles to wins.
Absolutely. We got to get a quick break in. You're listening to Speed City F1, and we'll be back right after these messages. All right, still live on YouTube. Let me check it out. See what's going on the YouTube channels. It's a shame we lost Chris. We'll get him back here shortly. And yeah, lots of activity here. TW's here. He says, very happy for Carlos. He was smooth today. He threw in a little smooth operator on the post-race interview.
Yeah, I didn't sing, though.
Sort of, kind of almost, right?
Yeah. That's what Formula One needs, like a baseball player's walk-up music when he goes to an at-bat.
Yeah.
Every driver should pick a song and they play it, this sort of the accompaniment to his victory lap, let's say.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Kevin Kelly, I think he corrected my points, my maths, because Lando's now 25 points back of Oscar Piastri. Let's see what else. Oh, by the way, good morning, Kevin Kelly. Did you finally wake up and did you miss a few laps, buddy? Let's see. Andy P's here. He says, even if he doesn't wreck, it was going to be a tough day for Piastri. Yeah, no doubt. But I'll tell you what, that little television shot they had, if you missed it, they showed Piastri sitting watching the race. And
with his feet up. Yeah.
With his feet up on the railing. And that's not where he wanted to be for sure. You see, Alonso jumped as well. And TW's talking about that because he said he reacted to Piastri's jump. Hey, Chris Medland, I hear you lighting up. We're in a break right now. How's your Wi-Fi?
It's good. I want to apologize to Bob for I felt like it didn't sound like you guys stopped when I tried to talk, and then I had to jump off because I had Andrea Stella to record it, and just like hit stop. It sounded like you guys did stop. So sorry about that if I interrupted everyone. But I
all right, here we go. Coming back.
Stella.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you can only get to pick two. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How is it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 80% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, gentlemen. Chris Medland he jumped off the Wi-Fi and recorded a spot because he caught up with the McLaren team principal. I'm really interested to hear this. He caught up with Andrea Stella.
Andrea, thanks very much for giving us a bit of time at the end of what's been a tough weekend for McLaren. Firstly, what happened with Oscar? Was that just driver error on the first lap, or was there an issue there?
Well, at the moment, we don't see any specific issue with the car. So it might have been a misjudgment. It looks like he might have braked on a white line. That might have been low grip still. So I think there's a lot of learning for Oscar, but we know how solid he is as a driver, so he will get the most out of this weekend. I've seen weekends like this even for drivers that won many championships, so nothing to be too worried about. Just get the learning, come back stronger.
Yeah, you've worked with some of the best in history in Formula One. But it wasn't just Oscar who had a tough weekend, was it? It felt like for the whole team it was a little bit scrappy. What would you put that down to?
Well, the track we knew that wasn't necessarily the most suited to the strengths of our car, but somehow we didn't capitalize on the potential that was available. Today in the race, the car was not fast enough to overtake anybody, so Lando spent all race in traffic. There's some work to do to improve the car, or like on this one, this year, we need to look at the setup. There won't be any more developments. And also I think there's some learning because we seem to be able to design very fast cars for some kind of circuits, but when we have these braking and short corners, we struggle a little bit. So, like I said, lots of learning for the drivers and for the team. And then we need to look also at the operations, like the pit stop once again wasn't a fast one, and we had some issues with reliability in practice. So one, to take all the information, review, reset, and come back stronger.
Well, we remember how good you've been all year. It's only a blip in that sense, but back-to-back wins for Max Verstappen. The Red Bulls looked improved. You've just mentioned the sort of corners you don't like. Could Singapore still be challenging as well?
I think Singapore should be back in the kind of circuit characteristics that should allow us to express the full potential of our car. However, I think what Red Bull are showing at the moment is not related, or not simply related to the circuits. I think they have made a genuine improvement. They had upgrades in Monza. They seem to have found a way to exploit these upgrades with the setup. So I said that yesterday already, that Max and Red Bull will be regular contenders for the wins, and definitely Max is a contender for the Drivers' Championship. So there's a lot of work ahead of us. We need to stay focused, improve, and we will go again.
Well, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you in Singapore.
Thank you.
Jonathan Green, I got to ask you, I know this is going to sound really crazy. Is there any panic going on at McLaren right now? I know the Constructors' Championship is a foregone conclusion, but Drivers is not, and this weekend was really a mess. I mean, Lando had a bad qualifying lap yesterday, or could have had a better one, had an opportunity then, have an opportunity today, and it's just not a great weekend.
I don't think panic's the word. I think we saw a little bit of this last year with Lando. You know, he got twitchy. The team got twitchy. He was in a chance to win and beat Max Verstappen. He didn't do it. And I think they've been down this road before, you know. And so now it's Oscar. And you know, Oscar was supporting Lando last year, but now it's gloves off. I do think there's a different air. I like that Stella is honest. You know, he didn't try to, you know, to sugarcoat it. But panic, I wouldn't say is the word, but I would say that there's a creeping anxiety as the World Constructors Champions. They should have wrapped it up today. That's what should have been the goal, and it just didn't happen. And so, yeah, they go to Singapore, where they better damn well do it type thing. I'm sure that's the boardroom meeting on Monday, which is, listen, the championship is still alive. We're still there. But we've got to win the Constructors, and we've got to win it now in Singapore.
All right, I'm going to ask you one more thing, Jonathan, just real quick, because you called me, because you're at VIR, but you called me right when Piastri crashed, and you were like, this is what I've been talking about this, a little bit of, you know, the anxiety you were talking about. But talk about what you were thinking when you saw Piastri crash.
Well, we've seen it for, you know, for all my years of following Formula One. Whether you like it or not, and it doesn't matter whether it's Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill, or Jack Villeneuve, people get twitchy and make mistakes that they would never make during a season. And let's face it, when have we talked about Oscar Piastri's mistakes this season? Not really.
Yeah, hardly ever.
Yeah, Melbourne. Okay, he made a mistake at Melbourne, but from there we've been calling him the Iceman too. We've been calling him, you know, everything, and he is all of the above. But that was, I mean, and Stella hasn't admitted it to us, because when I called you, we didn't know why he made the mistake, you know, why he stalled, but and why he crashed. But Stella pretty much confirmed that it was, you know, driver error.
Bob, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think Andrea Stella was searching his mind for the right words to take the heat off Piastri and make it sound like they didn't expect much out of this race because the car's not suited to the track, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, that's the McLaren team banding together. As to the pressure of having to defend their constructors title right away, I kind of disagree that. I don't think they're going to be overtaken. You know, they've just, when you win 12 of 17 races and have additional podiums in every race but 2 this year, you know, you're in pretty solid shape, and we expect them to bounce right back into that same standard of performance going forward. But this was a driver error. You know, this was the kind of disaster that a team least hopes for. But here's my thinking. One of the biggest investors in the McLaren organization is a Middle Eastern sovereign fund. And I think they would like nothing better than to watch their team clinch the championship on home soil, whether that's in Qatar or in Abu Dhabi. So I'm not worried about that. The drivers' championship is going to be tight. Max is going to put maximum pressure. But when you look at the team's constructors' standings, you don't see a real close battle until you get down to ninth. And then you've got about 7 drivers all covered by a minimum number of points. So that's where the real action is going to be going forward, I think.
Yeah. Greedy?
And, yeah, just to add to that, I mean, you know, think about it. Piastri sat on the wall and watched the race and had 2 hours to think about the future, right? Mm-hmm. He should have got on a moped, found somebody, got back to the pits, put the headphones on, and worked to understand what was going on in the race, because anything could have happened, and he would have been a very useful asset to the team. But instead, he didn't want to face the music. And I'm not giving him a hard time. I would be exactly the same. But the point is, it's different. Do you know what I'm saying? There was a sort of... Yeah. It's not the way a team works. A team works together. Mm-hmm. And even if Piastri had nothing to add, he should have been there on the pit wall as soon as he could.
Question: will that shot of Piastri with his feet up become the meme that Fernando Alonso sitting on the lawn chair at the Spanish Grand Prix was from years ago?
That's exactly what I was thinking when I saw it. The same thing. Hey, Chris Medland, I hear you lighting up your microphone out there in Baku. Did you catch up with a couple of team principals I hear through the grapevine?
I did indeed. So not only do I have to apologize on air right now to Bob for cutting him off just before I interviewed Andrea Stella, and I have to apologize to you, John, for telling you I had got Fred Vasseur and then disappearing just as you finished the ad read. So I got both of them. And I also got a very happy James Vowles. So as you can imagine, 2 that we normally speak to are not always so happy, and then 1 who we sometimes speak to who was very happy. I've got Fred Vasseur in front of me. And Fred, tough weekend for Ferrari. Actually feels like you probably executed all you could do today with the way the race played out. Is that the way you see it, 8th and 9th for Lewis and Charles?
We can't be satisfied with P8 and P9, but at the end we started behind Norris and we finished behind Norris. I think this is the reality of the track. We had an issue on the engine with Charles. And I think it was costing us. It was marginal, but enough to not be able to overtake in the straight line. And then we were stuck behind Lawson for half of the afternoon. It is like it is. I think, honestly, if I have regrets, it's much more on yesterday, because I think we had the pace to do a much better job yesterday, and we lost the weekend on the quality.
When you reflect then, how do you maybe debrief with the team about this? Because as you say, you had the pace. Going into qualifying, we were talking you up as pole position contenders. So is that encouraging that the pace was there, or is it really frustrating that you didn't capitalise?
Both, because at the end of the day, you have 2 sides of the business. You have one is the pure performance, and the second one is the execution. Pure performance, I think after Spa we made a step forward, and it's quite clear on the numbers and the figures. Then yesterday, that after the Friday that we did to finish P10 and P12, I think it was not the result that we are expecting, but it is like it is, that we have to understand what we could have done better. I know Charles is taking a lot of huge part of the responsibility, but at the end we have also to see on our side what we could have done differently and to come back a bit stronger in Singapore.
We had a few drivers, not just Charles, complaining about engine issues and battery issues. What do you think that's down to? Is that the track that causes that?
I don't know. That we still don't understand exactly what's happened. That we don't know if it's an issue with the exhaust or whatever, but we'll investigate later on.
And you mentioned Singapore there. Just finally, you've had this progress, as you say, since Spa. Does that at least give you confidence that there will be opportunities to take a win this season? You are quick enough. You do have the car.
I think that this weekend we had the opportunity, perhaps that we didn't with different condition on Saturday, it would have been a different outcome also. But it is like it is, that you can't change the weather. It means that let's be focused on now on Singapore. I'm really convinced that we made a step, and that now we have to put everything together to deliver.
All right, well, thank you for your time, Fred. Appreciate it.
Okay, Chris, I got to ask you this about Ferrari. Look, we are 17 rounds in, no win. We had one sprint race that Hamilton won. And then Lewis Hamilton is saying after, where was it? Hungary, I can't remember where he's saying he should be replaced. I mean, is this a disaster year for Ferrari?
In some ways, yes. But especially because of where the car was at the end of last year. It was in a much better place than this, wasn't it? It was so competitive, fighting for the championship, and then it fell away from them. And I think to let that slip, I think, maybe you can use the term disaster for that. But flip side, I think there's still been positive signs. There's been some terrible execution, as we mentioned just then, with Fred Vasseur saying that, the car was quick, we just didn't get it together. Yeah, they have improved it. The development's still been okay, good enough to give them chances of winning races. But some really poor race weekends. So I feel like maybe the biggest problem is the fact that there's not one obvious place for them to go and improve. They need to improve on a number of fronts if they want to challenge. And look at the level that McLaren has set. Today is a huge, huge anomaly to drop away like they have. And Canada even, they were pretty solid despite not scoring heavily there. So I think you've got to look at the standard that's set from other teams, and that's where Ferrari will be scratching their heads. How did we go from so...
Sound like we lost Chris.
And we missed the punchline.
Yeah, we missed the punchline. But you know what? Chris got another interview with a team principal. He caught up with James Vowles. Let's hear that.
James, I'm going to walk you through this carnage of the Baku paddock right now. Yep. First podium of the season with Carlos. We talked pre-race. You felt that you had a quick car, but so much could have happened. How pleased are you with that result?
Yeah, fantastic. Really well done to Carlos. Didn't put a foot wrong all race. Absolutely nailed it. Well done to the pit stop crew. Really solid pit stop when it mattered, and the strategy team did a brilliant job just managing what was the right lap to try and give us the best opportunity.
It looked like a team that was ready to take that opportunity because, like you say, you had to stay calm, didn't you? Not jump at the wrong time for that pit stop.
Exactly that. The what can sometimes happen when you're fighting for your first podium in a while is you get just a little bit of emotion that comes into it. That didn't happen. We were in a really solid place, and just well done for the team for reacting that way.
And what about Carlos's performance this weekend? You said you had a bit of a chat and a reset with him over dinner on Thursday, but did you expect this outcome?
No, I think a podium would have been a dream for anyone. And more importantly, a podium where it's not weather or safety car that put us there. He earned it today. Well done to him. And no, that would have been the far-fetched dream that we had. I think he has shown the world why he's here, and I think it ratifies his decision to be here as well.
And at the start of the season, your car looked so quick. I will admit, I tipped Carlos to get a podium at some point this year. As a team, did you feel like this sort of result might be on the cards with the car you started the year with?
No, I thought we would need a little bit of fortune to fall our way. It's the car performance isn't quite there, and even today you can sort of see it did have a little bit of fortune. The McLarens really didn't have a great race. I'm sorry for them, but ultimately I'm glad you tipped us to do it. What you've seen this year, and I think this is great for Formula One, is you had Sauber with a podium, you've had VCARB with a podium, and you had a Williams with a podium. And I think fundamentally that is great for the sport, if nothing else.
Does it make you excited for the future as well, this driver lineup, this team that you're putting together, and what you can do 2026 and moving forward?
100%.
Well, I'll let you go and enjoy the celebrations. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have more from the Azerbaijan Grand Prix right after this. Okay, YouTubers. Andy P., I was going to ask you, I meant to do it on the air, Andy. I was going to ask you the same question that I asked a while ago to Jonathan. Is McLaren panicking? I know that's a little bit hyperbole, but they got to be not feeling good after this weekend. Andy P. says Singapore will suit them better, but they're going to play with fire if they really let Max back into this thing. Yep. I need to look at the maths on all that. The Wi-Fi monster
got. Do you think Max is motivated?
Huh. I feel like Max is in the maybe the greatest mental place in his entire career because he's showing everybody what he can do without the fastest car.
Okay. you use the word panic for McLaren. I'd like to use the word, without hyperbole, of calm at Red Bull since Horner's departure.
Oh, wow. There's the quote of the
I tend
day
to
right
agree
there.
with that. Yeah.
That
It's
may
going to
be
be interesting to see with regard to Max. He's scheduled to drive a 24-hour race at the Nürburgring, one of the toughest and most dangerous tracks in the world. I believe that's happening next weekend. So he goes from Azerbaijan to Germany and then to Singapore. That's a lot of time in airplanes. 24-hour race will take it out of you. It's going to be interesting to see if he can stand up to all that hard work.
I was going to say, I wouldn't allow that in season for one of my drivers. Especially,
I guess that's why the magazines are making such a big deal out of it. Yeah, why is Max being allowed to do this?
I know. You can't go skiing as a Formula One driver.
Yeah, or ride dirt bikes.
Yep.
Chris, we lost
life is not like any other track.
We lost you, buddy,
Definitely.
a while ago. All right, coming back, guys.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Right now, with zero commitment, try Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Kelly, who's watching on YouTube, because he reminded us that after today, Ferrari did indeed drop a position in the Constructors' Championship after today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix. They are now third in the championship, and I will bring those up. It's McLaren with 623, which is a huge lead over Mercedes at 290, but now Ferrari at 286 and Red Bull at 272. So those three teams, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull, are literally neck and neck for second in the Constructors' Championship for 2025. Chris, what's your take on that?
I think it's great. I think it's really good to see Red Bull actually stepping up. As Andrea Stella said, easy for me to say, that Red Bull have actually made progress here and they've got a car that will be competitive in a number of places. I think that's kind of what that fight needed between those three teams, because Max Verstappen was generally doing it all on his own, but Yuki Tsunoda with some solid points today as well. That's his best finish for Red Bull in sixth. But that's what's helping keep Red Bull in that fight as well. So I think that's a cool little scrap. I mean, it's a shame it's not for first, but three big teams there that are all in that same mix. And I'm going to enjoy watching them kind of fight that one out, because I think all three of them have made it their goal in terms of a team's result to finish second. Yeah, they know McLaren are long gone, but it's a big bragging rights. It's big money. And I don't think they really mind the slight loss of wind tunnel time that comes with finishing ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Andy P on YouTube has something for you, Chris. He says, one of the few times I disagree with Andrea Stella. The car was plenty fast here. Both drivers just did not execute. All right. What say you, Chris?
Ooh. It's a tough room.
I mean, yeah, it's a close one, that, isn't it? Because I do agree. I think both drivers could have done a much better job. But I do also think that we're seeing how difficult it was for everyone here. And it was scrappy from the word go from McLaren. It wasn't Piastri's fault that he had a problem with the power unit in FP1. That put him on the back foot. And when it is such a close fight between the two of them, they're then pushing for every little margin. Norris then making that mistake and damaging the car. As small as the mistake was, that's partly from pushing, because they know what they need to be able to win races here. And I think that's where Stella's point, we've got to kind of listen to him, and he says these types of corners don't suit the car. Well, that means they don't have the advantage that they have had at other tracks, as much as we're used to seeing that. So then the drivers are trying to take maybe that little bit more risk than they've needed to elsewhere, and it feeds itself. I do think they could have had cleaner weekends, yes. But I think that the car performance played into that as well.
Jonathan Green had a bomb Jonathan dropped that bomb on Chris that you did right before when he dropped off a Wi-Fi a while ago.
Yeah, we talked about is McLaren panicking, and I said no. But then I said, but I would say that Red Bull has been calm since Horner's departure. And would you agree with that?
I would, yeah. I actually spoke to a team member earlier today didn't really, I said it looks so much like nicer environment to work in now. And they didn't say that. They weren't as harsh as such to say, yeah, it's great now that Horner's left. But they did say that it's been fun working with Laurent, easy working with him. In fact, I think the hardest thing is getting him to do media. I don't think he really particularly likes being in front of a microphone, but they do like what he's brought and that stability he's brought. And it just seems more harmonious with Verstappen and his engineering team with the way they're going about things as well. So it's been impressive. It must be said, though, clearly the upgraded floor has brought a step, and a few other bits that they brought to the car. It is more settled because these were two tracks, Monza and here, where Red Bull really struggled last year. And regardless of how anyone else has got on, this was a much more competitive Red Bull at both. So that progress has come. That would have been before Horner lost his job. They'll have been working on a number of these upgrades. It's the same technical team there in place. So we've got to remember that as well. But I think it's just a happier camp at the moment because the results also motivate people. It doesn't look like a downward slide anymore that it was. It looks a little bit more optimistic that they can fight for wins with regularity towards the end of the season and also for at least second place in that Constructors' Championship.
I was going to say, if it would be ironic if Verstappen beat, I looked at the points in the Drivers' Championship, Verstappen's in a good position to beat Norris.
He is. Well, I think Verstappen, you've got to look at where he's at compared to Oscar Piastri. You get a race like this, 25-point swing, because the Red Bull's quick enough for him to take victory when something like that happens. Well, the pressure and tension is only going to go up between the two McLaren drivers moving forward. Yeah. And Verstappen's proven with these last two races that he will capitalise. Maybe it definitely say it's too much or too little too late as such with what's left in the season. But he will be someone that they'll just be keeping an eye on, I think, keeping an awareness of. I don't think Norris will be looking over his shoulder. I don't think Piastri necessarily will be at Verstappen. But I think both are within his range if there's further kind of drama at McLaren.
Chris, I think you were not with us when I read out the stat that Verstappen has led more laps than Norris this year. When I first heard it, I was like, wow. But does that surprise you?
Yes, that he's led more. But I can see how. That's 4 wins for Max now, 5 for Lando. But most pole positions of anyone has gone to Max as well. So I can... I wouldn't have expected it to have been a huge difference, but yes, the big difference, I guess, is that quite often when Lando's been leading a race, it's been a race that McLaren are dominating massively. Red Bull have had to work harder, and Verstappen's had to work harder to be at the front. Potentially, apart from these last two, and even then, a lot of today has come down to the genius of yesterday, the job he did in qualifying, and the job that other drivers did that opened up that possibility for him to then just disappear into the distance in the way he did. Controlled it so well again. You just don't doubt him, do you? You think he's never going to make a mistake when he's in that position. He's got to go and win it.
Well, Chris, you have been busy, like I alluded to earlier, where you were doing F1 TV, you're doing radio with us, you're doing the PA. What did we miss? Give us some behind the scenes today. What was it? Because you've literally been on top of everything.
Well, I was running around in the pit lane pre-race to talk to the drivers to see if we could get any insight from them for F1 TV just before they went out there. And it was quite ironic, actually. One, Max Verstappen, when I interviewed him, started interviewing him before he'd even taken off his helmet because it was about a 10-pace walk from the grid to his garage. It was dead straight across the pit lane. So I needed to get a question in before he got too far. But he said, you've got to be prepared for anything. Anything can happen here. So it doesn't matter how confident he is. It doesn't matter the fact that he fully believed he had a car capable of winning and the car did feel good. He said, you want to get through the first few corners, see where you're at then, and then hope that things kind of stay clean. Flip side was Oscar Piastri. I asked what he was hoping for. Did he want a big carnage because he was starting ninth? Did he need something like that to move him forward? Or the fact he was in the pack, did he want to avoid that? And he said, I don't mind either as long as I'm not involved in the carnage. Well, he was the only one, wasn't he? So that was a bit of a premonition, it felt like. But it just felt like a day today where yesterday was so chaotic, so random that everybody did take it that little bit more cautiously early on. And what that does is open up the race situation to kind of settle into an order, and you don't have these wild restarts that then cause more yellows and reds. So by keeping it clean early, I think that fed into that clean race.
Hey, Bob Varsha, I want to ask you this. I'm spotting some really really fun, nice tweets about Carlos Sainz's podium today. One of them, actually, one of them was Carlos running up to jump into the arms of his teammates, which was awesome. But actually, a better one that I like is Alex Albon watching the podium with a huge smile on his face, happy for his teammate. That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, and I think it's quite natural. You know, we always expect pro athletes to look the part and toe the company line and, you know, that sort of thing. But I think there's genuine goodwill among all the folks in the Williams garages. And to be honest, most all of the garages up and down pit lane. But there certainly seems to be a special kind of harmony between the drivers at Williams. Naturally on track, they're going to fight each other tooth and nail. But Alex Albon is in a position to realize what unrealized potential can do to a driver's mindset. Albon has been very unlucky in the last couple of seasons, and he knows that there's a race winner in Carlos Sainz. I was just thinking, it's been 2 years since Singapore in 2023, and the winner of that race was Carlos Sainz in a Ferrari. So I'm not surprised at all, and I agree. It's kind of a heartwarming thing to realize that these drivers really do, you know, function as a team, and they really enjoy it when they win it. Not as much as they would enjoy it if they won it, but to have your teammate win is the usual response. If I can't win it, I hope he does.
Yeah, very cool. Also, another heartwarming one I want to ask you, Chris, because I'm watching Max's grandmother watching the podium ceremony, tearing up. Did you see Max's grandma this weekend?
I did. Well, I saw her on the big screens, actually. I was like, oh, didn't realize she was here. They were good that they could feature her. And it's, you know, a random race to come to, isn't it? Baku, but it is quite fun. And clearly she's a good omen. So Max will have to bring her to Singapore as well and see if that continues to form. But yeah, that was a lovely moment. And I agree with Bob as well. I thought it was a lovely touch with Alex and Carlos. And it does show, you know, Carlos and Alex have both talked about how open each other are. Alex being very open with kind of telling Carlos everything he needs to know coming into Williams, what it's like to drive for that team. And it's gone down very well. They've functioned excellently as a team together. So that was great to see. I do want to ask you guys, though, who had Carlos Sainz scoring a podium before Lewis Hamilton after the start of this season?
Yeah, not me.
Well, you know, we'll look back in, I think, a few years and wonder, as we speak today, we might wonder whether Hamilton made this glorious move at the right time. You know, Williams are world champions in 5 years, and Hamilton's retired, and another guy on the pile of Ferrari guys that didn't get the championship.
Ooh,
well, if that happened, though, I mean, Williams wasn't an option for Hamilton, was it? So,
no.
Well, maybe it was. I guess he told them he wanted to join. But, yeah, he had that choice of Merc or Ferrari. And as we're seeing, even, you know, good weekend for Mercedes this weekend, strong result. But we're talking about those two swapping positions in the Constructors' Championship, fighting each other. They're kind of, you know, one and the same. You trade one in for the other, nothing changes a lot. So I don't think he's actually made a worse move. It's just the fact that it's not gone as well as we expected at Ferrari, and Ferrari have gone backwards too. But we'll have to wait and see how that plays out next year, because it could be that Mercedes is far more competitive than that Ferrari.
You know, we were talking about the scenes in the post-race interviews. I was absolutely shocked at George Russell's appearance. I mean, he looked like death warmed over.
He sounded like it.
And admitted as much. Oh, gosh. He looked, you know, is it Halloween yet? That was really a
Chris,
mask of...
Were you social distancing from George Russell, Chris?
I am, yeah. Actually, from a lot of people, there's been a fair few that have been under the weather this weekend. But he was exempt from a lot of his media duties all weekend, including yesterday. Even though he'd had a good qualifying session, he didn't go to the broadcast pen. The FIA, you know, accepted that the illness he had meant that he had extenuating circumstances that meant he didn't need to put himself through any more, basically, and he could go and rest. He actually went back earlier on Friday evening than normal from engineering to go and rest as well. He normally works pretty late here at the track, so it has been tough for him. And he's not lying when he says that was him looking and feeling his best of the weekend so far. His team radio sounded clearer than it had on the other 2 days. So yeah, it's been a tough one for him. Really did come on, it seems, pretty much overnight into Thursday. So it did cost us an interview with him, didn't it? That was a shame. We had that lined up for Thursday, and that one went out the window when he missed the day. But he's done really, really well just to get through the weekend, let alone then turn that into a second place, which I think was by far the best result Mercedes were going to get this weekend.
Yeah, I know you had an interview lined up with George Russell. You did get Valtteri Bottas, which I think we probably got some time to be able to play later in the show today. I know that was a nice little interview. You sat down with the future Cadillac driver, and that'll be fun. But Chris, I am hearing the microphone light up around you. What is going on around you right now?
It's just such a busy paddock because it's very small here in Baku. It's not one of the bigger ones at all. The paddock is squeezed in between a main road and a pit building that has to sit next to that main road and Government House, this beautiful, massive governmental building. And this is an area that they use for a lot of events, concerts, marches. There's some floodlights that are permanently in place the other side of the track to light up this area if they want to use it for that. And it just means that the space between the two is very narrow. So all the teams have a two-story building for all their hospitality, and those are raised as well, actually. And then a ramp out the front of each of them, a little bit of space for seating, and then you've got a very narrow corridor for everyone to walk around. And amazingly, it's one of the smaller crowds of the year, but VIP-wise, you don't need that many numbers in here to then make it busy. A lot of the race officials have come out, scrutineers are out wandering around, chatting to people, trying to get souvenirs and photos. It's still, of course, a new country on the F1 calendar in general. The sport's growing here, but that means there's a lot of new people discovering it and enjoying it. So it makes for a very lively place. And you add in a whole F1 paddock trying to pack up at the same time. It's a little bit treacherous.
All right, well, let's get our last break in really quick. And when we come back, we got a couple more. I got some cool stats for you. And we do have that interview with Valtteri Bottas. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after these messages. Sorry, Bobo, I stepped right on you as I was going to break.
Well, that's okay. I didn't know the break was coming that quickly, and I didn't see anything in the chat. But you know,
we'll do it.
The straightaway there is like 5 lanes wide, right? I mean, take 2 lanes, and widen that pit area to solve the problems that Chris just talked about. It would also help slow the cars for turn 1, which might be a good thing. I mean, they can put that pit lane, make it as wide as they want to. It's not like there's no space on the far side of the pit wall as opposed to all that jam up in front of the government building. But who asked me?
We all want to know, Bob.
I can tell you this. In the paddock, it's I can see right next to me, there's a bus lane, and then there's a number more lanes. This is like an 8 or 9 lane highway, I think, normally.
Yeah.
But then what they've done is they wanted the pit building to be permanent as such, so that they didn't have to take it down too often. This was the one thing they wanted to allow to stay up. And in doing that, then they had to work out how much they're encroaching onto the road and not to allow it still to be open enough for traffic the rest of the year. So I think that's probably why it's so wide as it is. But I do see a point. And it's all coming down after this race anyway. They have to take it all down because of a big parade. So it'll be stripped down after this race and then rebuilt in 12 months' time.
Hey, Chris.
About the crowd, too. It looked like a very diverse crowd. Were those just people flying in for the race, or is it that diverse a population year-round?
I think it's a lot of people flying in for the race, actually. They do make it quite easy to get a visa to come in here for fans. It's part of the marketing for the event as well. And it's not overly expensive. You can get some decent hotels at a cheap price if you're willing to walk a long way or get an Uber, well, the version of an Uber over here. But it's culturally very interesting as well. So
there we go.
It's a good one.
I'm George Russell, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back to Speed City. We have been enjoying all the discussion after the Formula One Azerbaijan Grand Prix. We talked about some stats earlier. Jonathan, or Chris, actually, which one of you guys said, who would have expected Carlos Sainz podium before
Chris, before
Hamilton? Chris, you said that, but How about Hadjar and Hulkenberg before podiums before Hamilton? So Sainz, Hadjar, and Hulkenberg all have had podiums this year ahead of Hamilton. So that's an extension of the stat that you would have been stunned by, Chris. Don't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Did not see that one coming at all. And it's been, it has been a bit of a roller coaster, I think, for Lewis Hamilton so far at Ferrari, but a roller coaster for all those teams too. You know, Hadjar's had some great results and obviously a tough start to the year. Hulkenberg as well, as much as that was a great weekend at Silverstone and Sauber clearly improved, there's been some tough weekends for that team as well. That midfield is so competitive. But maybe it is a sign of some of the execution problems that Ferrari, that clearly that means there were races where it was possible for pretty much any car on this grid, maybe bar the Alpine or the Aston Martin, given their relative pace, but possible for anyone else to score a podium. And if they haven't managed to do so, Ferrari, then with Hamilton, then they've kind of got to look at the way they've executed some of these weekends.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree. And Fred Vasseur talks a lot about expectations for Lewis when he arrived. And I think what we're seeing is the downside of heightened expectations. You know, there were people who thought Lewis was going to march into Ferrari and take his 8th world championship right off the bat. And as we now know, it's a lot tougher than people are giving it credit for. So, it's been tough for Lewis to have to deal with that. But that's motor racing, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
It certainly is.
Here's some comments from Oscar Piastri after the race. And I thought this was a really good topic because we were talking about how the way would the picture of him with his feet up on the railing become a meme. But here's a couple of comments. He says, I'm not, and first of all, I'll preface this with he started the race off with a false start, and then moments later crashed in turn 6. But he says, I'm not blaming it on anything else. No, just locked up, just a misjudgment on the lines. I was trying to anticipate it too much, a simple error, and then went into anti-stall and went downhill from there. So just a simple scenario. He says, you're never going to feel amazing after a weekend like this. But ultimately, the pace has still been good this weekend, and it's rare that I have so many executional errors. So, yeah, it still sounds like the calm, cool, collected Piastri that we've come to get used to. And let's not forget, guys, he's in his 3rd year. So, yeah, his 3rd year, this is when you would expect somebody to start to really come into their career. But the amazing thing, I guess, was how he kind of felt like he was in his 10th year leading up to this, right? He had the calm Iceman kind of demeanor like you were talking about, Jonathan.
Yeah, and I made it sound like he was falling apart by sitting on the sidelines. But the truth is, he'll get back. He'll have a chat with Mark Webber. Webber will say, "Right, come on, go and have a shower. Come back. Let's do the data. Take a couple of days away, and let's hit Singapore. You can win it."
Yep.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, Mark Webber, his manager, may be his biggest asset at moments like this. And, he hasn't had many of them, admittedly. So, that increases the intensity of them when they happen. He's got a bit of Lando Norris in him from his response to those questions. Nobody's fault but mine. I just did it wrong. Although I'd like to talk to the mechanic who adjusted his clutch bite. As I said, he had a new chassis built up after his crash yesterday. So, yeah, I think he'll bounce back.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, I'm seeing
it's ironic. I'm
just real quick, Jonathan. Chris, I'm seeing some chatter about Lewis Hamilton and team orders on the last lap with Leclerc.
Yeah, what was that? Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen any chatter about that myself, or I didn't hear any team radio messages either. But it is true that the two drivers were asked to swap positions. Leclerc moved over Hamilton for him to have a go at Tsunoda, Norris, and Lawson head. And Hamilton didn't make any further progress when he got to the back of that DRS train. So maybe the Ferrari plan was then swap them back. Whether that's what they ordered and it didn't happen, whether they just didn't make the order coming back the other way, I don't know. But I can see where the thought process would be if people are thinking that might happen. But I didn't hear a message myself but then I didn't have access to every radio channel. So some people actually get to hear more than we do if they're sitting on one of the radio channels throughout the race.
Yeah. Well, Chris, if you don't think anybody's going to be popping out that you want to interview, I'd like to play this Valtteri Bottas interview that you did. What did you catch up with Bottas on Friday? Is that right?
Thursday in the end. He was my trusty stand-in for George Russell. When I realised we weren't going to get time with George, I went to chat to Valtteri for a bit of a track guide of this place, and then just to look ahead to his move and how it was going to go at Cadillac after he finally got that deal signed to bring him back onto the grid in 2026.
But Valtteri, how's this year been for you? Because having a year out must have been frustrating, but you've been back in familiar surroundings at Mercedes and secured a race seat for next year.
Yeah, overall now when I look at it, it's been a good year. I've managed to secure my spot again as a race driver in Formula 1, and I had a year of learning things, being a bit on the other side of the team, because when you're a driver, you're kind of in your own bubble with, limited amount of people that you work directly, and especially when you're out on track, you only really have one person that you communicate with. But now, being all the sessions in the garage, listening to all the comms that are going on in different situations, I think I've actually learned quite a few things about the teamwork and how things actually work, while the car is on track.
But is that going to be easy to remember when you're driving a car on track at 200 miles an hour?
I think it has opened up my eyes a bit. And again, I think this experience will help me in the future, knowing a bit like how a team needs to operate and what needs to be the standards in different things. But also I think it's been a good year because it has made me appreciate the sport much more. To be a Formula 1 driver, one of the 20 or next year 22, is very unique, and I'll definitely have different approach to the sport on that sense.
And when there's good weekends, bad weekends here at Mercedes, do you still feel a full part of it because of the job you do? Does it hurt just as much as if you were out there, sort of thing?
Well, it's never the same than when you're out there as a driver, but you definitely feel the emotions. You feel the ups and downs, and if I can be even a tiny help throughout the weekend, is rewarding. And same thing if things just go south, you're part of the team, you feel the disappointment. So you're still going up and down the same roller coaster as a driver, but this year for me, for sure, a bit less so.
Well, you've got 8 more races with the team to do that role before you move to Cadillac, and we'll get on to Cadillac in a second. But I want to ask you one thing about when you were chasing another seat, looking at options. How close did you come with any other teams to potentially getting back on the grid?
Not very close, because I set Cadillac as a priority quite early on this year. So that was really the main focus. So that's why any other discussions didn't go too deep, because for me it was clear what I want, and in the end when that happened, it made me obviously very, very happy, and everything kind of worked out as planned.
Were there ever any doubts there about whether Cadillac would sign you? Because did you ever worry that they might take one experienced driver and one not experienced, or did you feel pretty confident in the way it's headed?
I did learn from last year that you should never get too confident. So I knew that I shouldn't get too excited, even though there was lots of positive signs and words and feedback from the bosses. But I knew that until it's done, just keep calm and do your thing. So I definitely learned a lot about the politics of F1 last year.
But how did it feel then getting to announce it, having that big New York announcement, and then even walking back into the paddock and being able to talk to people about 2026 and racing again?
Yeah, felt great, of course, and almost like signing my first ever F1 contract. Feeling wise, it's like, it's really cool. And that day, announcement day in New York, just made me realize again that I'm going to be a Formula 1 driver, which is, like I said earlier, I appreciate it much more now than what I did some years ago.
And are you balancing 2 roles at the moment? Is there still a bit in touch with Cadillac and what they need for the future, or is it fully Mercedes taking up all your time?
So, of course, the priority is Mercedes. They are my employer and I have a job here. But on my free time, of course, I can do kind of whatever, and naturally being already in touch with the team and with the key people, because there's already some feedback that they need from the drivers when it comes to, example like steering wheel and stuff like that. So naturally we'll be doing almost a double shift.
I was going to say, I'm sure not every team would take that approach there. There might be some teams that are quite protective of their drivers or of their IP. So how helpful has it been to have that support, I guess?
Yeah, the team has been really supportive, and I think it just comes mainly from Toto, because he knows me, he knows how much I want to race, so they don't want to be, annoying in that sense. And of course, there's a fine line, like how much information they would now give me about their next year's car. That's natural. That probably not much, but yeah, he knows the name of the game, and I'm lucky to have that support.
Does that mean less sim time in the 26 car for Mo?
Probably no sim time in 26 car anymore, but that's understandable.
Is that a good thing? Do you prefer not being in the sim?
Yeah. No, I mean, I've never been a big fan of the sim stuff, but for me it's work, and as long as it is useful either for me or for the team, then it's always worth doing it.
Well, just finally, we joked, it wasn't on air at the time, but in Zandvoort you said to me that butt calendars were still on the radar, that you were not banned from doing them at Cadillac when you joined there. Now, I did tell everybody on air, so I need you to confirm that was true.
Yeah, I can confirm that. Yeah, Cadillac's approach and rules and regulations, they basically have told me that I should just be who I am and do kind of whatever I feel like, which is quite nice.
Well, based on that, I was going to say, you're already very popular in America, but what can the US fan base expect from Valtteri Bottas, the Cadillac driver, next year?
Well, it's hard to predict, I would put it that way. I'm going to keep things fun for sure, but of course serious as well. It's serious business. We are in this to get good results. That's the priority, but I'm sure we're going to be doing some cool stuff together along the way when the time is right. But yeah, got some ideas, but I don't want to share too much now.
I look forward to finding out what those are then.
Yep.
Valtteri, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
I'm excited for Cadillac, so I wanted to play that, but I'm getting fired up about this. Hey, Johnny Green, you're up at VI. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just about to say, and so the new Ricardo is born.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think Cadillac is probably hoping
that. If they like what his style is, and it is refreshing, let's face it, for Formula One, and he's totally embraced it this last season while he's been off. And okay, he'll be sensible, but I think he'll have a lot of fun with Cadillac.
Yeah,
he's very clever.
Yes, I'm in VIR right now.
Yeah, I think you're.
I think the pair of them are going to be probably the most popular team in the paddock. Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they could be. I think I was muted, but they're both clever guys. In fact, I saw something on the internet recently is that several members of the Red Bull communications and hospitality squad and the PR folks, if you like, are going to leave Red Bull to go to Cadillac as well because they want to follow Checo, which, is something I haven't heard anything like before, but good on them. And we all know about Valtteri and his bare butt calendars and his funny TV commercials. And I mean, when he was walking past that Cadillac Escalade or whatever it was at an auto show, he looked inside the cockpit and said, "Oh, looks like a nice seat for the driver."
Yeah,
so everybody
great.
took the double entendre.
All right, guys, we're out of time.
Hey, real quick.
What do you get? We got 5.
Before you go,
yeah.
Cooper Shipman from Austin, Texas is about to win the F4 championship and win the most consecutive races. So fingers crossed today.
Wow, that is
Absolutely.
a big deal. Pay attention to that. Yeah, we got that up at VIR. We got IMSA over at Indianapolis in the road course inside. So
Logan Sargent racing this weekend.
That's right. Hey, thanks to everyone who tuned in. Thanks to Casey Johns, our producer, Bob Varsha, Jonathan Green, and Chris Medland. And we'll talk to you guys next week.